job. So rather than blaming witches and wizards, it's mostly the failure of your governments. If your government was better, you will pray less. You are praying that a government official should do their job with integrity, should not ask you for bribe, should favor you. It's because the system is not working. If the system is working, you will pray less. Go and check. Most of our prayer points are because of a failure of a system. You are going to pray for visa to another man's country. Another man's country because they built their country. Because they built their country. You are praying for windfall from Western propaganda, from Russia propaganda. You are praying for aid. It's because these people have built their country. If all the money we've stolen from our crude oil industry was channeled towards aid, we too will have a new means of living. Is it not the same crude oil God gave Saudi that He gave us? Do you see Saudi going to beg? Why are we begging? Because our leaders are making us beg. So except we start to change our mindset and our mentality, we are never going to move forward. And most of these problems can also be traced to the leadership class. All we try to do is to remind Africa of its own greatness. Is to remind Africa of its own greatness. A lot of people send me message, Rufai, you are favoring Western propaganda. No. All I'm just saying is neither Russia or the West is the salvation of Africa. Africa must find their own path of salvation. And when people should talk, they should talk with facts. Give us facts. If you say something, give us something. Facts. That's what we are saying. So anybody that is spreading Russia propaganda, that's their problem. What pains me is that when will Africa's own grace and greatness go to the world, not only in Afrobeat, but we're saying the technological advancement, because we actually had those things here. By 10 o'clock, we're going to play that documentary again, probably today by Shokosha. Go and watch Arise, and you see what I'm saying. And you see that this continent used to be great. This continent had a lot of capacity. And that's why we try as much as possible to feed you with information that Africa's own liberation is in the hands of Africa. Over 1 billion people, over 30 million square kilometers of land, over 60% arable land, and we can't feed ourselves, and we're waiting for aid from America and the likes, and Russia, that all they do is to come here and steal from us and plunder our gold. And China, who now has trade of in excess of over 300 billion to Africa. America has 64 billion. Russia is now just coming into the fray with over 18 billion. So we need to look inward. And the so-called African countries that are saying they are liberating now, their association with countries like Russia running away from the West is still the same thing that they are running away from, like the West. Africa needs to liberate for itself. That's just it. So those are the things we are saying. But all of this rise and falls with leadership. Today I'm going to be playing the replay of the interview between the Rise team and Natasha Akpoti from the 10 o'clock hour after we finish the interview with Prof. Africa cannot grow when we are busy dealing with issues of that nature with our leaders, when we need to be talking and arguing developments. How can Nigeria tap into AI, use AI to store up large language models? How can African history, be integrated with information technology? How can ancient African technology be revisited and used for the benefit of humanity? Where are the ancient African drugs that our forefathers used? Can we also use that and check them scientifically and see how we can use them to build a medical infrastructure today on the African continent? So those are the questions we ought to be asking ourselves today. The real liberation of Africa will come from us, the African people. You can go and you know, get knowledge from the West, but bring it back, just like what China did. Sent their kids to the West to get knowledge, but they brought it back to their country. Send their kids to the West, brought it back to their country. Canada is also doing the same. I'll take some few calls before I have Prof come in and we talk about these things. 0818-099-1991. 0818-099-1991. 0818-099-1991. We cannot do this without development of the minds of African people. They should stop making themselves subservient. We, Africa, need to be able to think for ourselves, not with this class of leadership. Hello, how are you? Hello? Hello? Morning, what's your name? Great, where are you calling from? Okay, go ahead. Talk to me, my brother.
Africa needs to wake up and stand up for itself because the way they have absolutely nothing to offer us.
Yes.
But I think in the midst of all of this, I think there are higher powers. When I say higher powers, I'm talking about this same world powers that are the center of everything, so that what actually governs who gets what out of every nation or every continent as it stands today. It's a matter of who has the military power.
Yes.
Nobody believes that there is this economic shift or like switch about how we the world no longer thrives on military capacity but on economic power. We want to believe that it's what China stood up against the West, America, amount of military threat as well as of America. Because if not, automatically we know what America does to be that one to
Thank you so much, my brother. Thank you so much, my brother. Really appreciate you. Really appreciate it. I mean, the likes of President Bolaji Akinwumi has talked about that many years ago. And I remember that, I think it was Jose, the cartoonist, said, before we have a African bomb, what about the hungry, suffering people? We also need to build economic power before we can also build military power. Hello, how are you? Hello? Morning, how are you? Great to have you.
Happy New Month.
Yeah, happy new month to you. Great to have you. Yeah, can you speak up for me?
Yeah. The network from the outside is not there.
Maybe you guys. Hello, how are you? This one is clear. Morning, how are you, sir? Oh, Manjem, it's good you called us up, but you've been the one doing all the great work. But you have a problem now, so we need to raise funds for you. You said Wiki pursued you out of your house, or he came to your estate, or what do you say happened?
Because that's around the Apple resettlement.
Okay.
see, I have to relocate to Malada, which I've never been there before. I just have to survive, and my wife as well, we have to move. So it has been so good. And that's because of our outreach on the 6th and 7th. The Correctional Service.
Okay, so the outreach on the 5th, 6th, and 7th with Nigeria Correctional Service, in the Icon of Hope Foundation. But you said we are taking people off the Akpo settlement area, and you are in Guagalana, so you need help. Can you give us your number, please? So that they can also give for the outreach and also help you out. You need help for residence and accommodation.
Thank you very much. My phone number is 090.
Yes. Yes. 83 3627. So 0906 683 3627. Please, if you want to reach out to Manjan, is the one that helps us with the prison ministry outreach in Abuja. He's homeless now. We need to reach out to him. His number is 0906 683 3627. 0906 683 3627. He's also having the outreach on the 5th of March at the Abuja Correctional Center. You know, the prisons around Abuja. Thank you so much, Manjem. We'll keep you in our thoughts and prayers. Bless you, my brother. Thank you. His number once again is 0906 683 3627. Well, I'll call it out. Thank you. 0818 099 0818 099 1991. That's the phone number to call us up on. So we need to think. We need to think. We need to grow. We need to explore. There are many gifts God has given to Africa. It's not by being subservient to America, the West, China, and the likes, and Russia. That's going to make us go. We need to look inwards. And we can't do that with a political class that thinks of itself alone. That's why every Sunday on Impact we Rufai, we preach this message of redemption. Open your minds. We use media for positive good in society, and we keep building platforms where we can use media for positive good. Because media should be for positive good. It should be for information that change your life. It should be for prospects in life. It should be for information that will make you 10 times better. Improve your reality. Because if you don't have that, you don't have a society. That's why those that listen to our shows here, they see the level of impact we make, and we do it with a lot of our projects. Projects like our AI training projects. Things like AI training project. Why did you think I started the AI training project? I started the partnership. Because if you learn about AI, we can start building our own AI infrastructure. At least it's a beginning training. At least it's going to spoil your interest. Not saying I'm going to give you the full one, but it's going to spoil your interest. Yesterday, we did another class, cohort 8. Cohort 8. I've had 8 different cohorts. We have over 2,000 people registered. Over 2,000 people registered. 8 different cohorts. And that's what we keep doing. Use it to help a lot of people. Open their eyes, give them skills, create wealth. Create wealth. Because that's what we do. Open up opportunities. The other day, I gave out the number of a man here to teach people farming. To teach people farming. Skills on farming. From time to time, I keep giving opportunities because we need to first physically empower Africans with wealth before we can now say they should stand for themselves. One of the reasons why Africa depends on the West for everything is poverty. It's poverty. That's why a lot of people are depending on American aid, over $800 million. Poverty. We need to grow our wealth from within. We need to make our vaccines here. We need to make our drugs here. We need to eat our own food. We need to sell to the world. I'll take two more calls before I bring in Prof. 08180991991. Phone line to call us upon 08180991991. 08180991991. Phone number to call us up 08180991991. And when you have that number, just call us up if you want to participate on this. We're also across all social media platforms. We are currently also live on YouTube. VOP YouTube has over 70,000 followers. Rufai Oseni has 320,000 on Facebook. And then we have another 485,000 on Instagram. Hello, how are you? God bless you. What's your name? Go ahead, Sam. Talk to us quickly.
Thank you for the nice job you are doing. And for me, I believe you have said so much. And then for me, I think rather than just, I know you have, rather than just for us to analyze, I think we should also have a plan. When I mean we really want, I think if what happened the last election, we can try and push more, sensitization and awareness, and there's a lot of things that are already focusing now. We should begin to chart the course for leadership even before the next one. So I think possibly there could be a platform, there could be leaders, and our plan is because we should nothing. We have a new crop of guys, either the existing or the new, and they are affecting their portion. Just get like
Thank you. So there should be a roadmap. I mean, all of this roadmap will be constant leadership sensitization here, like I always do. And also, what I'm also going to do is creating wealth and empowerment via this platform. So please, if you're out there, you have a business idea, we'll give you the chance to talk about your business idea. We'll also look for investors for you. All right? We'll give you the chance to talk about your business idea. We also look for skills because I believe the financial empowerment of the people is also going to accelerate this. Apart from the leadership training we give. Professor Tony, is a Nigerian historian, professor of African Studies. He's a fellow of the Historical Society of Nigeria and Nigeria Academy of Letters. Served as president of African Students Association. Is currently a Jacob and Francis Sanga Moseka Chair of Humanities at the University of Texas in Austin. He's going to be my guest very soon. Hello, how are you? Quickly, before I bring Prof in. Morning. Go ahead quickly, sir. Yeah. Yes.
I think the problem Africa is having.
Yeah.
That is the reason why we have because they are the head of Africa. When they participate for
ECOWAS, let me just correct you. ECOWAS is only West African sovereignty, so it's not the collective of Africa. But I'm sure you're talking about the problem in West Africa. Yes, ECOWAS plays a role. Most of the leaders entered the government through dubious elections. Some of them tried to stay tight in power. That's what led to what happened in Mali and other countries. And we need to be able to tell them the truth every time.
Here.
Thank you so much, my brother. Let me bring Prof in. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Bless you. So, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Professor Extraordinaire Professor Falola. Thank you so much. In fact, let me sing a song for you as you come in, sir. Baba o, Baba o, Baba o, Olúwa dá bàbá sí fún wa. Baba o, Baba o, Baba o, Olúwa dá bàbá sí fún wa. Thank you so much for all you are doing for Africa, sir. You are a true patriot of the continent with all you represent. We celebrate you, we appreciate you, we acknowledge you. And welcome to this time of Voice of the People Radio, streaming live on YouTube. We're also on terrestrial radio in Nigeria on 90.3 FM and other streaming platforms. And we are reaching millions. In fact, it's a radio station that has done so well in a short time. In the space of 2 years, out of close to 80 radio stations, we are quickly inching to be part of the first 20 in the space of 2 years, with close to over 1.5 to 2 million terrestrial concurrent listeners on a weekly basis. Great to have you, sir.
Congratulations.
Welcome to the show, sir.
Congratulations. And I like the idea of using the media.
Hello, sir. I can't hear you well, sir. Can you unmute yourself, sir?
What's going on? I'm not.
Can you unmute yourself, sir? VOP, can you help us?
No, it's not me. It's not from my end. It's not from my end. Hello?
Okay, we're having some technical issues, but I'll check with the team. I think I should be able to hear Baba. VOP, support, can you help us? Austin, where are you? Austin, VOP support, can you please help us? Support, where are you? Please, we'd like to call on the VOP support to please help us so that we can hear our dear father speak to us.
Hello?
He's been here waiting patiently for a while so that we can hear him speak to us. He can hear me, but we cannot hear him.
Hello? Hello?
Please, we are just trying to sort out this. Austin VOP support, where are you?
Hello?
Okay, I can hear that we can hear him. So okay, Austin, can you make it so that we can both hear the audio, increase the VOP audio, so that I can hear him here, so that my connecting unit here too can hear him, please. Unmute, please, so that we can all hear everybody, so that I can get a feedback here. Have you done that? Unmute VOP Central, so that we can hear ourselves here. Hello, Austin.
Well, can you hear me now?
So sorry, just a minute. These are some of the challenges we face on the live show. Hello, Austin. Unmute VOP Central, so that we can all hear. We just need to unmute live studio so that everybody too on Instagram can hear the conversation, please. Hello. Please, I will just have to get across to the VOP in-studio people. Please, so sorry about this. Just Okay, morning, sir.
Morning, sir. Can you hear us, sir?
I can hear you. Can
Okay,
you hear
okay,
me?
great. Okay.
Okay.
If you
If
can
you can
hear me,
hear me,
sir,
sir,
I just
I just
want you
want
to
you to
take
take
a
a
cursory
cursory
look
look
at
at
Nigeria's
Nigeria's
history
history
and
and
what are the
what are the
lessons you
lessons
think
you
we
think
ought
we
to have
ought to have
learned from
learned from
history
history
that we
that
haven't
we haven't
learned
learned
up to
up to
today?
today?
Thank you very much. It's a
It's a
pity
pity
one
one
cannot be
cannot be
brief
brief
about
about
this
this
important
important
question,
question,
but I
but I
will
will
try.
try.
Number one, what is the price of our intolerance and division? We passed through a major civil war. Did we learn anything from that? We ran bad elections. Did we learn anything from that? We produced bad leaders. What did we learn from that? We had experience of religious violence. What do we learn from that? So we are paying a big price for that division. Second, what do we learn from bad leadership? And before I joined this session, this is what you kept talking about. You are linking this bad leadership to lack of progress. We produce bad leaders. What did we learn
Number
from
three,
that? We had experience of religious violence. The idea of making mistakes is that you no longer make mistakes. Second, whether it's leaders or as nations from leadership, and we all have to join this session. But the important thing is that those who accumulate wisdom. But as a nation, our mistakes have not accumulated into wisdom. In other words, we are not converting those mistakes into greatness. Then we understand ourselves, what we call human nature. But what extent have we taken measures to correct those human nature? If you say people are corrupt, to what extent have we converted that idea to policy? Okay, do we want the Chinese model? You are corrupt, but don't let us catch you. If we catch you, we will deal with you. Do you want to do the Japanese model? We're not asking you to be corrupt, but if you're corrupt and you are caught, go and commit suicide. Do we borrow ideas from our past, of our people, how we deal with the failure of the human nature? Whether you are Yoruba or Edo or Igbo, Africans have dealt with the failure of human nature in terms of the punishment for shame and guilt. Do you want to do something bad in the village? You can go ahead and do it, but you must run away from the village. You become the story of Achebe, of a good man purchasing a madman who stole his clothes from the riverbank. So then we see the cycles in our bad elections. We see the patterns in the production of our leadership, in which our history keeps repeating itself. So we already know that. You can even produce in our bad elections. We see the patterns in the production of our leadership. You can predict with accuracy what will happen in 2025, what is going to follow it. That's since 1999, once you produce the new leader, is worse than the one. It keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Since 1999, the person that is going to follow Tinubu is going to be worse than Tinubu. So those are the lessons. And final point, what is the impact of leadership? So you just made the point, somebody called, you are seeking help for the person who is homeless. If individuals can do that, what are nations supposed to do? There's no short answer to a big question that you have posed. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, sir. I mean, thank you so much for the insights, sir. I mean, we've just been still trying to hover around with the audio set. But I want you to talk about the IBB book, this new Babangida's book we're all talking about. I mean, what's your take on this new Babangida book? You're a witness to history, and historian. What's your take about that book, sir?
Let me start by disappointing you. I'm happy that you published that book. Because if you didn't publish that book, we will not know about the following. That a group of the people we are supposed to respect the most gather in Abuja to launch the book. You can't hear me again? Can you hear me? You can't hear me.
No, I can hear you. Go ahead, sir. Just go ahead, sir.
Oh, I'm confused because I saw your lips moving.
No, just go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
I said I'm glad you published the book because it enables us to know his own thinking about many of these issues. And it enables us to know that people can gather and raise that huge amount of money, which they cannot raise for positive things. And it demonstrates from the book launching that those who killed one another over the activities of politicians need to revisit their own lives, that they need not trust these people because upon all said and done, they can present themselves as friends. So if only for that book launching, I'm grateful that the event took place. Then you have positive comments coming from those who have benefited from the system. The former Vice President, Yemi Oshibajo, praising the book. Is he praising the book because the book is good or because it's one of the politicians who benefited from the system in Lagos and Abuja? Is his version of his own history. That is just a version of his own history with many contentious
Princess Naomi Shikemi, former wife of the Oni of Ife, and Ibadan-based broadcaster.
And he forgot to mention that this period, by implementing structural adjustment program, one of what laid the foundation of what people are suffering today. I'm not sure that you are hearing me. I'm not sure you are hearing me.
Hello, sir.
I'm not sure you are hearing me.
You don't. Hello, sir. So, I mean, you were talking about Yemi Oshibajo's version of his own history. A lot of people are saying that history was distorted, via the Babangida book. What's your take on it? You were witness to history. You saw how it happened. You knew what happened. What's your take on it, sir?
It's correct that there's a lot of distortion. And what has generated the noise, the argument, is around the issue of the annulment of the election. To claim that he's not aware, one should not be respectful of the word to use. That is a lie. And one should not even apologize for calling him a liar with respect to June 12, 1993. And second, given what happened before, the evidence is that demand did not want to leave power, and circumstances forced him out of power. So they're very correct about it. If your radio station is clear, there are two major points that one should make about this moment. Can I keep talking? Hello?
Hello, sir.
Can I keep talking?
Yeah, you can go ahead, sir. You can go ahead. I can hear you, sir.
Maybe we should record it and then you play it. There are two elements that people should pay attention to that they have not been talking about. What you call Japa today, the leader who started this process, his name, Babangida. If you track the history of the movement of Nigerians outside of the country, you track it to his decision on structural adjustment program. His agreement with the Bretton Woods institution that devastated the economy under his regime what started Japa in the outside. Second, and you should do a conversation about this. The first president of Nigeria that institutionalized corruption was Babangida. It was at his time that Nigeria began the unimaginable corruption of an agency of government giving bribe to another agency of government. Today, we have perfected that. It used to be contractors will pay money to politicians. Now, they will not release the budget of university if the vice chancellors don't pay bribe. One ministry now pays bribe to another ministry. One government agency now bribes another government agency. At the level of the state, local government chair can bribe the government. One ministry now pays bribe to another ministry. The states can bribe the federal government. It all started on Babangida. That the institutionalization of that corruption and one agency bribing another agency. So we're dealing with something so structural, and they simulated this structure subsequently in the NNPC. And the NNPC is now the major center of Nigeria's corruption, which is why it's controlled by the president of the country himself. Thank you.
petitions for disciplinary review. Senator Natasha Akpoti has filed a lawsuit against the President of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, for alleged defamation. Akpoti-Uduaghan raised concerns after her seat was being reassigned following a shuffle triggered by opposition members switching to the majority wing. She resisted relocation, leading to a confrontation and her and the Senate President. In the suit filed before the Federal Capital Territory High Court on 25th of February, the Senate President of the Federal Republic and legislative aides to the Senate President, Ufon Patrick, were listed as second and third defendants. Meanwhile, Citizens Network for Peace and Development and Civil Society Organization, CSO, has asked Natasha Akpoti, Senator representing Kogi, to redirect her energy to legislative duties. In a statement, Francis Waneh, the Executive Director of CSO, asked the lawmaker to refrain from activities as perceived as distraction to the Senate. Waneh said Kogi senators should be fighting for poor Nigerians rather than fighting over seat allocation in the chamber. So joining us now on the show is Senator Natasha Akpoti, this day award Senator of the Year, member representing Kogi Central at the National Assembly. Let's go to it because there's a lot to talk about, Natasha, and there's a one for time. There's been some allegations, of corruption against you by some Northern, youth association. Can you address those allegations? That's number one. Number two, can you tell us how seats are being arranged, in the Senate and what transpired, your take on that? That's number two. And really, I'd like to know, you and Akpabio today, you and Akpabio another time. What is really the matter between you and Akpabio? Because I hear that both families are friends. So I'd like to really know what is going on. Why always you and Senate President Akpabio? Those three questions.
Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Ayo. And good morning, Professor Kila. Thank you so much for having me on your show. And also thank you for awarding me as the Senator of the Year. It's quite unfortunate that after such a long break from me being in the studio, this scenario had to bring me in here. And going straight to your first question, which is the allegations, the petition against me by a certain northern group, which has to do with the conduct of my office as the chair of the local content committee. I would first say that the allegations are baseless, but as they are hampering on my integrity, I am glad to throw some light on it. The first allegation there was on the misappropriation of the funds in the account and withholding the interest, as it said. I would like to say this, that when I resumed as chair, I have the bank statement here. It's the Sterling, it's an account under the name Senate Committee on Local Content, and the account is with Sterling Bank, and the account number is 00662082209. And when I resumed as chair of the committee, the account balance was zero. And then gradually, at the time I handed over to the next chairman, the account had 13,649,335 naira and 4 kobo. And I will say this, the first month after my resumption, the clerk of the committee, whose name is well listed there, probably the lady who is behind this petition, Mrs. Edith Aja, she approached me in January and said, oh, the first month's payment has gotten in. And I was like, what do you mean by that? She told me that every month, every committee in the National Assembly receives 950,000 naira as running or operational costs. And so that I said, okay, what is the money supposed to be used for? She said, it's for logistics, mail dispatches, whenever refreshments for meetings that we have, and all that. I said, okay, so if 950,000 naira has hit the account, we are yet to call for any meeting, so I think leave that money there, or is there a problem? She said, yes, the trend or the norm is that if there is no event or happenstance that utilizes the money, we are supposed to share the money. I said, how do you mean? She said the money is usually shared. I, as a chairperson, I would take a part of it. I'll give some to my deputy, and the rest of the money will be shared amongst the staff of the local content committee. And I was like, did you say that is what happens? She said, yes, that is what my predecessor did, and that is what happens in all the committees in the National Assembly. I said, well, you know what? That money, if it's meant to service the operations of the committee, it's not meant to enrich my pockets. It's not meant to enrich the pockets of the staff. I would not want to collect this so-called impress. So I would advise that you keep that money in the account, and we build the money, we use it for whatever it's needed. If we have to buy office equipment, print stationaries, then we use that money. And I promise this, and the bank statement is here. Anyone who has access to it, I have called the account number. You can check. We have gradually built the account. We use there was a time I approved the money last year for the purchase of a printer, because it made no sense that we kept on spending so much money printing outside. I was like, you know what, let us have a printer in-house. We bought a printer. We also have printed lots of materials, but basically the money, I never took a kobo out of that in the name of impress. I never gave my deputy then, who is Senator Ede Dafinone, any impress. He can verify and attest to that. Neither did I allow any of the staff to take any money, because that is taxpayers' money, and the money was meant to service the office. Now, the second allocation there is that, oh, but by the way, it would impress you to know that ever since I left office, the money has been withdrawn by the clerk. About 5 million was withdrawn. And 2 days after my removal again, 4.9 million was withdrawn. So as at today, the bank, that account that had 13 million has only 123,000. Now, the second allegation there is that I harassed the clerk, and I called for the CVs of the staff. Now, this is it. I believe in I believe that the committee was set to oversee the operations of all the IOCs and the national industry players, and to also strengthen in-country capacity with regards to the oil and gas sector. So such a committee needs the services of lawyers and auditors, because we have to look at a whole lot of accounts and how monies are being spent, monies that are due to strengthen the educational and training sectors, how they are being spent. So one thing, again, the clerk told me was that we needed to deploy the services of an external consultant. And I told her, I was like, why do we have to deploy the services of an external consultant when we have in-house staff? The Committee on Local Content had about 10 or 11 staff at the time. And I was like, we should be able to do this job ourselves. I am a lawyer. I can do my own part wherever one needs to refer to the Constitution or to the Act as it may. And I believe we should have supporting lawyers, we should have auditors, we should have accountants amongst the staff. So I asked her for the CVs so that I could look, and then amongst them, I can write to the clerk of the Senate and say, you know what, can you swap this person, because I want to have an effective team to operate. So if that is what they say, harassment, then so be it. And as for the rest, they mentioned I harassed NLNG. Excuse me, please.
Natasha,
I harassed NLNG.
Natasha, for the
these companies will write and act and defend.
For the want of time, the second question I asked is, then what transpired on the Senate floor?
Second question,
and why is there always a tiff between you and the Senate President? So those are the two. You can put both together.
Of course.
Why is there always a fight between you and the Senate President?
Of course. That was on the sitting arrangements. I think it was a Thursday, last Thursday. I walked to the chambers early before sitting. I signed the book. Please, can I have some water, please? Sorry, where is it? Oh.
Okay, we'll just wait till...
I flew all night, so I'm kind of drained. Okay, so...
Yes, you were saying, yeah.
The sitting arrangements. I walked into the chambers that morning. I signed my attendance sheet, and I was walking straight to my usual seat, which is the last seat by the door, like at the topmost last seat by the aisle. So, and then I was told by one of the sergeant at arms that, oh, ma'am, that is no longer your seat. You are now sitting at the far end there. And I was like, since when? They said, well, that's what the Senate President instructed. I was like, I was in chambers yesterday, which was Wednesday. I've not been notified. Why did you change my seat? What reason? I'm comfortable here. I'm okay here. I wasn't notified of that. So I was upset. And then I said I refused to move to the new seat. I don't even know what the new seat is. I don't even know the number. I don't know. But they told me it was the last seat, appointed the last seat at the far end. So then the procession came. The president walked in to the seat, and then the rest was shown online. I was already told, by the way, that I should gently move. Some senators messaged me that I should please adhere to the change and move to my seat because that was a trap, a setup. And I was trying to understand what trap, what setup. At that point, the minority leader, Senator Abamoro, walked up to me and he told me, Natasha, please just obey, just go to that seat. And I'm like, no, sir, you are my leader. You should speak for me. I am not aware that my seat has been changed. And I believe I should be given a chance. Maybe they should explain to me why my seat was changed. Maybe I can also explain why, if they could maybe consider leaving me here, that I'm not moving. He said, he pleaded with me that I should please move to the other seat and not explain that we could address it later. And I said, sir, I have hit these chambers, I have complained, and you have witnessed several of my privileges, me being maligned several times, and you never stood up for me. So no, I am not moving there because I do not trust that if I move, this matter will be addressed. So I am going to raise it on the floor. That was what I told my leader, who is the leader of the minority, Senator Abamoro. And then he walked. So after that, I was about to be, then the minority whip now read the rules that I have broken the Senate rule by not adhering to my seat change.
Allocation,
and that was when, at the time the Senate president was about to read my seat allocation. At the time the Senate president was about to read, because the next thing he was going to do was to read my suspension because I failed to adhere to that. But he had already made some statements that, Senator, the whip was, hold on. The whip of the,
it's just that we have to manage.
Had mentioned
Senator
that
Natasha. Yes, ma'am. I'm so sorry, but we had to manage our time, and part of the question.
Okay, so you might. So at that point, I knew I had to read Order 10.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to read Order 10. Now, what is Order 10? Many people don't understand. So now, Order 10 is is an SOS for every senator who feels their rights and privileges have been breached. So and permit me to quickly read what Order 10 here means. Any senator may rise at any time to speak upon a matter of privilege suddenly arising, and he shall be prepared to move without notice a motion declaring that a contempt or breach of privilege had been committed. Now here it is. It does not say I cannot read that order in that place. Whenever a senator feels that their rights have been trifled upon, I have the right, even if I'm laying on the floor, wherever a senator is in that place. This order book does not say Order 10 should be read from a particular seat.
Okay, Senator Natasha, let me come in here.
I have no right to speak from that seat, that I should speak from my new seat. Yes. The Senate President aired, hold on please, this is a very important point.
Okay.
The Senate President himself made a mistake by not allowing me to speak on that Order 10, because it says here, and let me mention number 11. When a matter of privilege
Senator Natasha, I'm going to have to come in here. Senator Natasha, I am going to have to come in here. Thank you so much.
Yes, please.
You'll have more time to explain, but we have such limited time and we want to get as much out of this interview as possible. Well, thank you for expressing and opening up your statement. So what I assume from what you've said now, because that was the question I was going to ask you, was the Senate Standing Orders, Chapter 362. A senator may only speak from the seat allocated to him, provided that the president of the Senate may change the allocation from time to time. So what you're saying is that Order 10 trumps Order 6.2 in terms of your ability to speak. But you can respond to that after I ask this question. Based on that, you made allegations last week, Thursday, in the chamber saying that you've been maligned. In fact, you said to the Senate president on the floor, in the chambers, that you are not afraid of him. Can you share or expatiate on what you mean by that? And when you had a follow-up interview, you were talking about how some of your privileges were deliberately taken away from you. What was the motive behind this? And then finally, is this exclusive to you alone? Or is it just because, I mean, there are many things that have come up because you're a woman, there are only 4 women in the House, you and the Senate President have personal altercations that have now appeared on in the chambers. Is this the privileges being withdrawn from you exclusive to you alone? And why do you think that is?
Now, thank you. Indeed, the Senate President has the right to allocate seats to every senator. And the senator should speak from that allocated seat. But here it is. I was not about to make a debate. Neither was I about to contribute to a motion. I was reading an SOS, which is a lifeline of any senator. For any senator to have invoked Order 10, that means his privileges were already, or her privileges were already infringed upon and denied. And that can be raised anywhere at any time. So once a senator shouts Order 10, believe me, even if I'm being dragged on the floor and I say Order 10, they are supposed to listen to me. Wherever I sit in that place, that's why he said any senator may rise at any time to speak upon a matter of privilege, suddenly arising, and I should be prepared to move same. So in this part, the Senate President, once I raised Order 10, he ought to have allowed me to speak. And then he could have maybe taken his own discretion to overrule it or move that complaint to the Ethics and Privileges Committee. But the Senate President failed to do that. Instead, he ordered that the Sergeant at Arms should move me out of the chambers and prepare for my suspension.
Okay, next question.
Now, you're talking about my outburst. Yes, I
please.
did mention. I did mention that my rights in the Senate there, I have been dehumanized, I have been maligned and all what. And that outburst, I believe that the seat change was just the straw that broke the camel's back. A lot has been going on. And you asked, I'm just going again, trying to mix up the question.
Yes, that's fine.
So
I asked you, you made a statement that you've been maligned, you are not afraid of the Senate President, and that I asked if this was exclusive to you alone or if this is a particular trend.
Yeah, that outburst, that's what I'm about to explain that.
Yes.
Yes, so many people do not know what I'm about to say, but I'm going to speak my own truth. And the Senate President is allowed to counter that. It all started on the 8th of December, 2023, which was a day before his birthday and my birthday. We are birthday mates. We were all in Akwa Ibom because he had a big fanfare in the stadium. Myself, my husband, and a few of his close friends, we went to Akwa Ibom. And at first, we were at Akpoti-Uduaghan. We were in his house in Akpoti-Uduaghan. Then we all moved to his house in Uyo, which was about 8 p.m. And he held my hand and said he wanted to show me around his house. My husband was walking behind us, just 3 of us. We're walking around from room to room. He showed me the beautiful interior. This was done by this, by that, this designer here, he bought this from us. Like, oh, it's beautiful. And then I noticed that he hastened his pace while still holding my hand. And my husband was behind, still on his phone, but he was catching up whenever he could. And then he got to this particular sitting room, and he said, "Do you like my house?" I said, "Of course, sir. Every room, beautiful, nice interior, quality taste." He said, "Now that you're a senator, I'm going to create a time for us to come spend quality moments here. You will enjoy it." At that point, I just pulled away, and I was like, I don't really understand what exactly that meant. But then my husband now, when I turned around, I saw my husband was already near me, and the way my husband looked at me and looked at him, I was beginning to wonder, did he hear part of that inciting statements or not? And then the Senate President, too, I saw that he also had that thought, like, did my husband hear the invitation to treat or not? So then the Senate President now said, "Oh, by the way, let me show you my chapel." He has a chapel in his house as well. So while we were going to the chapel, you know, we walked in silence and all. So that evening, before we left the Senate President's house at about 11 midnight to the 4 points in Akpoti-Uduaghan. And my husband asked me, "Natasha, what did the Senate President whisper to you? What's he telling you?" I thought, should I tell him that he was speaking about bringing me in here at a special time for us to have a good time? Or should I just kill it there, wrap it as if there was nothing? Because tomorrow was a big day. I know how much my husband adores the Senate President. He loves him as a brother. My husband would do anything to support him. So I told my husband, nothing. I can't remember what I created, but I just gave him some words to manage, to mask what was said. When we laid in bed, I lay to my right, and my husband wrapped his arms around me, and he said, my love, you know you can't tell me anything. What did the Senate president tell you? Again, I was like, don't you believe me? I said, nothing. Nothing. Moreover, it's my birthday in a few minutes. Let's just be happy. Then my husband told me he doesn't want to see me travel out of the country alone, and I should not go to the Senate president's house because he has a guest house where many senators do go there, you know, after office to like get approvals and all that. So I told him, okay, no problems. That was it. I thought that was going to be the end. But then, in February, I wanted to move a motion. I wanted to move a motion for the investigation on the ills of a corrupt practice in Ajakuta Steel Company. I listed that motion 5 times. It was the 6th time that it was listed on the order paper that was approved. Many senators can testify to that. Each time the motion is listed, just before he takes it, he will say, oh, Senator Natasha, we can't take this motion because the board of the Senate does not accommodate it. Or he will speak on others and then let it drag so that just before my motion is taken, the time will be well spent. So he kept on doing that. I went to him in his office. And I said, Senate President, you know how important this Ajakuta Steel Company to me is. You know how important it is to my people and to Nigerians. I've noticed that you have stepped down this motion. As a matter of fact, a number of senators told me, go and see him and plead with him so that he would take it. I was like, sir, please, why can't you take this motion? It's very important. It's been listed. Then it was listed the 3rd time and stepped down. He then said, Natasha, I'm the chief presiding officer of the Senate. You can enjoy a whole lot if you take care of me and make me happy. At that point, I said, sir, I'll pretend that I didn't hear this. He said, well, the ball is in your court. I left his office, and when I got home, I told my husband, I didn't tell my husband what happened. I just told my husband, please, can you speak to the Senate president to allow my motion scale through? I think I also spoke to the DSP, to the leader, Senator Pemi. I spoke to a number of senators that they should please intervene and allow him to laugh. I never told them what happened. My husband had to take a trip to London. Then the Senate president traveled to London. My husband met with the Senate president in London and pleaded with him. Let my wife take this motion on Ajakuta. That is very important to her.
Okay. All right, Senator Natasha.
He said, okay, that he did not take it because he was protecting me. Hold on, please. He didn't take it because he was protecting me. Protecting me from what? Anyway, at the time my demotion was taken, it was the Deputy Senate President, His Excellency Barao, that actually sat. The Senate President stood up and walked out. So it was Senator Barao that actually took it.
All right, Senator Natasha.
And from there, many other incidents happened.
Yes, Senator
let's
Natasha.
Talk about the nightclub. Yes. Hold on, let's talk about the nightclub incident.
Professor Kila is going to ask you a question. I'm so sorry to have to interject here. But I just want to mention that, and I'm glad you gave the caveat at the beginning of your statement, that this is your side of the story, and the Senate President has the right to defend himself or to counter what happened between you privately. So what I assume, or from what you're saying, is that what happened last week Thursday began from a private conversation, and then you have felt like you've been maligned as a result of you not agreeing to certain propositions, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
what has happened? You know the story of when a student keeps being failed.
Yes.
Please, let me say this, Ayo. You know the situation we see in universities whereby a student is continuously being failed just because she has not slept with the lecturer. That's what I've been facing, in simple terms.
Thank you. Professor Kila.
That is what I have been going through.
Thank you very much,
and
Professor Kila.
Now, moving to, should I speak about the nightclub incident?
No, that's okay. Professor Kila will come in now. Thank you.
Don't do that. It's quite time to come in because you've just indicted the lecturer indirectly. And I'm coming to ask you a question. Senator, it is from your side of the story, it is clear there's a lot of undercurrent and personal issues that had led to the, should we call it the outburst on the allocation of chair thing. There's a lot going on, and you've made a series of allegations which indicts the Senate President morally, if not criminally, at least, and there's indictment of abuse of power, because if he's refusing you to do your duty for personal reasons, we need to see if he has the right to do that. But let me ask you a question, just to simplify. This idea of your seat was reallocated and you don't want to use it. What's in a seat? Why was it so important for you not to just move as you've been told to do so and deal with it later? What's the importance of saying no to that seat allocation?
Thank you so much, Professor Killer. Sitting arrangements in the National Assembly or in the chambers is very critical. That is why at the forefront, we have the leadership. And after them, we have ranking senators, second-timers, third-timers sitting there. And the nearer you are to the Senate president, the more visible you are. So you're able to interface with the daily activities, and then you have more visualized, the cameras capture you more. You're more present as against being a backbencher. So where I am sitting, the Senate president sits at the lowest point, while I am sitting at the topmost point, but on the same level.
So, Senator, it is, Senator, I'll recap for you.
So whenever whenever I stand,
it is safe to say that
where I was moved to, was
you felt they were reducing you.
Where the workers, the chamber staff sit.
So you felt they were relegating you. They were relegating you.
If they say, hold on, exactly. Let me say this.
Yes.
His excuse that it's because there were 2 vacant seats due to the decamping of the senators, right?
Yes.
And that they had to. Why did they have to pick on me to start the shift? There were other senators that were in front of me that would have filled the seat. Why did it have to be me to fill in the seat at the far corner? But I will say this again. If you see where I sit at the back, there is a silent degrading of senators that, as they say, came from court. We are made to feel as if we are lower than our other colleagues that resumed office and were sworn in earlier than us, even though we're all first-timers. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
I remember when I asked, initially, I asked why I was not sitting amongst my other first-time colleagues.
Yes.
And I was told that is because you resumed 6 months later. So it's almost like a punishment because I resumed 6 months later. Therefore, I have to sit or take seats or wait for my other colleagues whom we all ran elections with together and won together, even though we were rigged.
So Senator,
we were made to sit at the back. So after me,
it seems clear to me.
Senator
Akpoti-Uduaghan,
2 weeks after me, yes.
So it seems to me, from your own narrative, that you feel victimized and you feel you're being treated like a second-class senator in that place. Let me ask you a question based on your own narrative.
I have a very important...
No, but very quickly, you're going to say, let me just ask you just this question.
Professor.
Yes, just this very question. Do you feel that other senators in that house, male or female or different party, do you feel that they're standing up to what they ought to be doing, or do you feel they are also, with their silence, complicit with your victimization? I want you to judge the whole Senate, 109 men and women.
No.
You don't feel they're complicit, and you don't want to...
Now, here it is. I have enjoyed tremendous support from my colleagues. And the fact that a number of my colleagues have not spoken out publicly in my defense or criticized what has happened does not mean that they do not visit me privately at home or they do not call on me to give me words of encouragement. Why they are yet to come up openly and criticize the activities of the Senate President, probably that's best known to them. However, one question I have been asked a number of times is, why are the women silent? Why are the 3 other women silent?
Yeah, so why, Senator? Why do you think they're silent?
The day I filed the suit of defamation, the suit that whereby the Senate President's SLA on new media, Mr. Patrick Mfong, sexualized me by addressing my attire as being transparent, and that the only thing I know how to do is to wear pancake to the chambers. So when I filed that suit, Senator Ireti Kingibe, hold on, Senator Kiriti Kingibe, Senator Natasha,
and Senator we're low on time,
three women who send messages to me that they do not support the litigation. And none of them have called, apart from Senator Riti, that called my husband to tell me to withdraw that suit and all that. And my husband charged her that you were the same person who had come to the house to tell him that the ST was hitting on his wife sexually. So why are you now against my wife standing up for her rights? So let me tell you something, Mr. Which nobody knows. No, Mr. Rufai, please allow me to say this, please.
Please go ahead.
Can I say this?
Please please go ahead. Please go ahead, Senator. Please go ahead.
Now, at the nightclub incident, I believe that was not a slip of tongue. That was not a slip of tongue. He has a number of times told me that there are various ways we can have fun. If we travel, he has a way of making the whole the house, the space. He can basically create a party in the space. Do you understand? Like a nightclub in the space and would have fun and all of that. So that nightclub incident statement was not a mistake. It was more like out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. But let me say this. The day before please, Rufai, let me laugh.
Go ahead, Natasha.
Go ahead, Senator. Go ahead.
Let me speak,
please. Please go ahead. Please go ahead. Well,
if you don't want me to speak, I'll walk out and complete this on my Facebook, please.
Please go ahead. We're trying to manage time, Senator, but go ahead and finish it quickly. We're trying to manage time, but please go ahead.
The night, or should I say that morning, early hours of the morning that he apologized, which was 23rd of July, 2024. That was the morning he apologized. So the night I have it printed here, I have the screenshots of the phone call. It was 14 minutes past midnight when my phone rang. The leader of the House called me, Senator Michael Bamidele Opeyemi called me, and he said, Senator, how are you? I said, I'm fine. He said, you know, in the wake of all of this rancor, if the Senate President goes down, I will go down too. And I said, what do you mean, sir? At that point, I woke my husband up because he had fallen asleep before me. I said, are you calling me to threaten me? I could hear murmurs from the Senate President. I could hear the Senate President's voice at the background because I could tell he was on speakerphone. He said, no, I'm just telling you that, you know, there's a whole lot of attack on the Senate President, and if things go down, if he resigns or something happens, I should know that I'm going to be held responsible, and I also go down. At that point, I started shouting. I was like, you can't call me at midnight and threaten me, sir. You can't do this. And mind you, I was actually surprised because the leader of the House is someone I respect greatly. He's a very good friend. He's a very calm person. And I believe, I'm saying it, that if he actually made those statements, he probably was told to do so. So I dropped the line. And then I dropped the line. The first conversation was just 2 minutes, 33 seconds. Then my phone rang again at 26 minutes past midnight, that same day. And then it was the same call, Senator Opeyemi's line, but then it was the Senate President's voice. He said, Princess of the Senate. That's how he calls me casually. You know, I've been attacked. My wife has not slept for days. She's been crying. She's received lots of insults, all because of you. I said, no, sir, it's not because of me. It's because of you. I didn't force you to order that statement. And I did not call on the support I received from Nigerian women. So don't blame it on me. He said, no, he's telling me this because the Dane of Agbo, I think he's a king in Agbo in Delta State. So the Dane of Agbo spoke with him and told him that he, that's the Senate President, was the most hated politician in Nigeria at that point. Mind you, that was a few days to the protest. There was this end bad governance protest on the 1st of August, and this incident happened like a week before. So he said the Dane of Agbo told him, Mr. Senate President, you know, your rating is all low. You're one of the worst. You are one of the most hated politicians now. So I would advise, he said the Dane of Agbo advised the Senate President to leave Abuja because if he is caught in the middle of the protest, he could be attacked by the Nigerians. I said, so why are you telling this, sir? He said he's telling me because he found it insulting that the Dane of Agbo would tell him to leave, to run away, to leave Abuja. And that he's telling me, he said, Natasha, I'm telling you, go and tell them that if anybody over the age of 20 approaches me during the protest, I will what was the word? Hold on. I will take that person down. The Senate president told me over the phone that based on the advice that the Dean of Agbo gave him, that he should leave Abuja in the wake of the protest so that he will not be caught and probably will not be approached or attacked by the youth. He said, Natasha, I have the capacity, I'm number 3 citizen. If anybody over the age of 20 dares to confront me, I will take that person down. That person should dare me with his life. I said, at that point, I started shouting. I now told my husband, he didn't know the phone was on speakerphone all the while because I'd woken my husband up from the first speaker. I was like, my love, can you hear what he's telling me? This is exactly what he does. At that point, when he knew, he was like, is your husband there? Oh, yeah. I said, yes, sir, my husband is here. And he heard everything. He then told me to pass the phone to my husband. And you know what he said? Immediately, he changed his tone. He was like, oh, Alema, I have a slot for you. For an appointment from Delta State, why don't you bring a nominee? And I took the phone back, I shouted at the Senate president. I said, you can't pacify us, you can't threaten me on one side and then pacify me. Sir, I'm aware, even though the conversations took place on via WhatsApp, I know that the DSS and the NSS office, they have the tools to extract these phone calls. And I'm going to publish yes, sir. Okay, Senator Natasha, thank you. So and he told me that, well, all you want, hold on, please. He then told me that, all I want is an apology. He would apologize on the floor that morning and that he expects me to accept it. So all that morning, when I walked in, I was already threatened. I was already petrified. This is a man who had already called me at midnight, so I didn't sleep all night. I just had to say to his seamless apology. Senator Natasha Akpoti, thank you so much for being here. He who alleges must prove. I'm sure you have all your proof because they are on the other side are also going to demand all of it, and you have to put it out there. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for honoring us today with your presence. We'll take a short...